You know that feeling when you use an app and it just clicks? Everything is exactly where it should be, it's just a joy to use. But then there's the other side, right? That website that's so frustrating you seriously consider throwing your laptop across the room? So what's the difference between those two experiences? Well, it's not magic. It's design. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the blueprint that separates the truly great digital products from the truly grating ones.
Okay, so first things first, we got to tackle a big one right out of the gate. UI versus UX. You hear these two terms thrown around all the time, sometimes like they're the exact same thing. And look, they're definitely related, but trust me, they are not the same.
So let's break it down. User interface, that's UI, is all about the look. It's what you actually see on the screen. We're talking buttons, icons, colors, fonts, all the visual stuff. Its job is to look good and be easy to click around in. Now, user experience, UX, that's different. That's about the feel. It's the whole entire journey you have with a product. It's not just about what it looks like, but how it works, how it flows, and ultimately, how it makes you feel. To use an analogy, if a product were a house, UI would be the color of the paint and the style of the furniture. But UX? That's the actual architectural blueprint. It's the foundation, the layout of the rooms, the entire structure that makes the house livable.
Let's make this even clearer with a real-world example. Spotify. The UX part is thinking about the big questions. How do you want to discover new music? What's the best way to organize a playlist so it fits your mood? The UX designer is mapping out that whole experience. Then, the UI designer steps in. They're the ones who decide, hey, let's make the song that's playing right now bright green so you can spot it in a second. See the difference? One designs the journey, the other designs the signposts along the way.
All right, so here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start at the bottom with the pyramid's foundation, then climb all the way to the peak. After that, we'll look at the designer's toolkit, and finally put it all together with a blueprint for great design.
Okay, let's dive right in. Every single great digital product is built on a solid foundation. And I mean, if you get these first few levels wrong, nothing else you do is going to matter. This is where products pass or fail, right from the start.
So the framework we're going to be using today is called the UX pyramid. And if you've ever taken a psych class, this is going to sound familiar. It's basically modeled on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, the idea that you need the basics like food and shelter before you can even think about higher level stuff like personal growth. Well, it's the exact same concept, but for what users need from a digital product.
And here they are, the 6 levels of the pyramid. We start at the rock bottom with functional, and we have to build our way up step by step, all the way to meaningful. And there are no shortcuts here. You can't just jump to the top. I mean, think about it. A gorgeous app that's a joy to look at but crashes every 5 minutes? It's totally useless, right? You gotta earn your way up this thing level by level.
So, at the very bottom, the absolute base of the pyramid, we have the simplest question of all. Does it work? I mean, does it do the one thing it's supposed to do? If you have a messaging app, can you actually send a message? If it's a photo editor, can you edit a photo? If the answer is no, if it's buggy and crashes all the time, well, the user's journey is over before it even began.
And what does a functional failure look like in the real world? Oh, we've all seen them. It's that website that looks amazing on your desktop, but when you open it on your phone, it's a complete train wreck. Everything's overlapping and you can't click anything. Or it's an app that's impossible to use without a mouse, which completely shuts out people who rely on keyboard navigation. These aren't just little bugs. They're fundamental flaws that mean the product simply doesn't work for a lot of people.
Okay, moving up a step, we get to reliable. So it's not enough for your app to just work once. It has to work consistently, every single time. The information it gives you needs to be accurate, needs to be current. You, as a user, have to be able to trust that this thing is going to do its job without failing you.
So, a classic reliability fail? A super slow loading website. You know what I'm talking about. If a page takes more than a few seconds to show up, you're gone. Another big one is just plain inconsistency. Like when the save button is green on one page and blue on another or in a different spot. It just feels sloppy. It breaks your trust and makes you hesitate, and that completely kills the flow. All right, the third and final piece of our foundation is usable. Look, you can have a product that works perfectly and is super reliable, but if it's a total pain to figure out how to use it, guess what? People won't. A usable product just feels intuitive. You don't need a 20-page manual to get started. You can just do what you need to do because everything is right where you expect it to be.
And oh man, usability failures are everywhere. You've definitely seen these. It's that website with a crazy menu system where you're clicking 5 times just to find the contact page. Or it's an interface that's so packed with buttons and text and colors that it just gives you a headache. Even something as basic as picking a font that's tiny or hard to read can totally wreck the usability of a product.
Okay, so our foundation is solid. The product works, it's reliable, and it's usable. Now we get to climb higher. This is the fun part. This is where we go from a product that's merely functional to one that people actually love, where we start creating a real emotional connection. The first step into this higher level is convenient. And this is all about respecting the user's time and effort. A convenient product feels like it's one step ahead of you. It predicts what you need next, it gets rid of pointless steps, and it just makes your workflow smoother. It stops feeling like a clunky tool and starts feeling more like a smart assistant that's actually helping you out.
And now we get to my favorite part, making the experience pleasurable. This is where all that great UI design we talked about earlier really gets to shine. We're talking about those little moments of delight. A super slick animation, a clever bit of text, a beautiful design. This is what separates a product you just put up with from one you actively look forward to using.
Now, it's really important to talk about two kinds of pleasure here. First, you've got surface delight. These are those little wow moments, a fun animation when you hit a button or a funny little message. And those are cool. But then there's deep delight, and that's the real prize. Deep delight is that feeling of pure satisfaction when the product just works so perfectly that it feels like it's reading your mind. That's the stuff that creates loyal, passionate fans.
And that brings us to the very top, the absolute peak of the pyramid, meaningful. And honestly, not many products make it here. This is where a product stops being just a tool and creates a real personal connection. Maybe it aligns with your values or it empowers you to do something you couldn't do before. Just think about how products like Spotify or Netflix didn't just give us a new app. They completely changed how we listen to music and watch movies. They tapped into something deeper and literally changed the game for an entire industry.
Okay, this pyramid is a fantastic model, but you might be wondering, how do designers actually build products that climb it? Well, it's not magic, and it's definitely not guesswork. It's a very specific process that puts the user at the absolute center of everything.
It all works in a cycle, really. It kicks off with research. I'm talking about actually interviewing users to figure out what they need and what their frustrations are. Then, designers take those insights and start sketching out wireframes and plans. Next up, they build a prototype, something that looks and feels like the real thing that people can actually click on. And then, and this is key, they test it with real users, gather that feedback, and use it to make the product better. It's just this constant loop: research, design, prototype, and test, over and over again.
So let's wrap this all up. The big takeaway here is that this pyramid isn't just some abstract theory. It's a real, practical blueprint for making things that people don't just use, but that they genuinely love.
I love this quote because it just nails it. The goal of all this work, the point of great UI and UX, is for the design to completely disappear. The experience should be so seamless, so effortless, that you don't even notice it's there. You're just focused on doing your thing. The only time you really notice the design is when it's bad, when it's confusing or broken and gets in your way.
So from now on, whenever you use an app or a website, think about this pyramid. Ask yourself, where does this thing land? Is it stuck down in the mud at the functional level, or has it managed to climb up towards something special? Because now that you have this blueprint, I promise you, you're going to see it everywhere. It's one of those things you can't unsee. So it leaves me with one final question for you. What broken experience are you going to fix first?